Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. It pains me to speak against a bill that people have worked so hard on because I know that the motivations in their heart are good. I know they come at this issue with a long history in law enforcement as Sheriff Louderback and somebody who I believe has the best interest of this state in Representative Spiller. I take issue mainly with this legislature's approach to the issue of immigration. Our consistent refrain in this body has been enforcement only, never advocating for a safe, legal, transparent solution to the age-old challenge of Texas, which is transnational flows of people. Because people have been coming through Texas for centuries, whether it was on the Camino Real, up through places like San Antonio, through El Paso del Norte in El Paso, kinship relationships on a border that moves successively over and over again through different wars, annexations, treaties. And regardless of what we pass in this bill and the merits of this bill, the transnational movement of people will continue. So the real question for policymakers is, how do we do that in a way that is safe, that is legal, that is honorable for the worker, for the traveler? Because this state, ladies and gentlemen, the first fact that I will state for this body is this state has been built by immigrants. Authorized, unauthorized, those who came willingly, those who were refugees of war, and those who were enslaved. This place has been built by people who have come from elsewhere, including, and I'm going to give you a little history lesson, the Mexican state representative who is pictured on the wall behind me today, Stephen F. Austin, was not from Texas. He, in fact, was a legislator, a state legislator in the state of Coahuila y Texas, in what was Mexico. That Mexican guy right over there. Sam Houston was born in Virginia, came through Tennessee. Davy Crockett, a Tennessean. All were immigrants to the state, not from here. We had the German Emigration Company, for example, that played a key role in transporting thousands of Germans to Texas in the mid-1800s. Representative Louderback, Representative Kitzman, all of you who have German names from Central Texas. The reason we have a Czech stop on I-35 where we all get kolaches is because the Czechoslovakian community went there. We have Swedish Hill here in Austin. Obviously, the U.S. annexed parts of Mexico, including Texas after the Texas Revolution in 1936, and later after the Mexican-American War. So that families like Bobby Guerra's family, who had a Spanish land grant, the border skipped your family, Bobby. You were on one side of the border, your family and your heirs were part of the Kingdom of Spain, Spain's northern territory here, which is Texas, later Mexico, then Texas. And so when we think about immigration in this way, we just need to acknowledge that this has always been a transshipment point. This has always been a place where people for centuries have been traveling. This state capitol, members, and I see a lot of the people in the audience, and I hope you enjoy our state capitol today. The pink granite of this state capitol was cut by immigrants. They were from Scotland because they were the best granite cutters in the world, and they were brought here to cut the granite on the facade of this capitol. And I'm glad Representative Moody spoke earlier today because he's from El Paso, and I referred to it earlier. That was known as the Mexican Ellis Island, according to the Library of Congress, because it served as a major point of entry for Mexican immigrants crossing the border into the United States, just like Ellis Island in New York where my father came to on a boat in the mid-50s. And so, members, I just want to acknowledge that Texas is great because of its immigrants. Texas continued to build this state. You cannot look at any of the skyscrapers on this skyline and not acknowledge that they're built by immigrant workers, authorized or unauthorized. And there lies the rub, members. That is the dirty little secret, because we say as a country, if you're willing to cross the border, to get across the river, to go through the desert, we have plentiful jobs here, ladies and gentlemen. You will be guaranteed a job in the United States. Why, members? Because transnational labor flows operate on economic principles that are centuries old: supply and demand. And we have an insatiable demand in this country for immigrant labor. We always have. And it shows no sign of stopping. So instead of having enforcement-only policies, as we do in this state, would it not make sense for us as a body to say to our friends in Congress, Congress, we are tired of this. We need a solution for this. It costs us money. It is inefficient, members. And it produces bad results. It rewards the cartels. It rewards human suffering. It rewards cruelty. We have possibly created the worst immigration system possible, because bodies like this like to focus on the enforcement side, but will not focus on real solutions to making sure that we reduce legal immigration by increasing legal immigration, so that willing workers in Texas, willing workers abroad, will be matched with willing employers in a safe and legal system, so that we don't just have unauthorized immigrants in this state, because we have thousands and thousands of unauthorized companies in this state who gladly hire the unauthorized worker. And until we solve for that, ladies and gentlemen, we can pass all of these bills. We can talk till we're blue in the face about being tough on immigration, but it will not solve the challenge of this state, the challenge of this country. And until we have that political courage to do that, to say the words, to come up here and speak truth to power, to ask our colleagues in Washington to really act, every session we will come back over and over and over again and pass bills like this. And we will go back to our communities and say, oh, we did something on immigration. And it will never, ever, ever solve the challenge that is in front of us. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the oldest and largest business organization in this state, quite conservative as you know, we need about 500,000 skilled and unskilled workers every year in the United States, because we're an economic powerhouse. We're a juggernaut. And as Texas is the eighth largest economy in the world, we are part of that economic miracle. We need the workers. We need the workers in a safe and legal and transparent way, so that we can project our values as a state and continue to be the economic powerhouse that is driving the economy of the United States and the world. With that, members, I thank you for your time to share some ideas and experiences as this son of immigrants and as a member of this body for so long, who's seen bills like this over and over and over again that will never get at the heart of the problem. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. Thank you, members.
Mr. Olcott, for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield for a question?
Mr. Anchia, would you yield?
With pleasure, to my esteemed colleague, Representative Olcott.
Representative Anchia, is my understanding of this bill, it deals with 287G programs, which is focused on removing criminal illegal aliens. Are you aware that that's the main focus of this bill?
Well, that is a narrow reading of the bill. This is part of a bigger discussion, Representative Olcott, related to criminalizing workers. Because you know what?
I understand that you're making it a bigger
Gentlemen,
issue.
please do not talk over each other.
You have to let me finish. If you're going to ask me a question, you're going to have to let me finish.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.